All right. Informational items, accounts payable, payroll, treasury report, budget to actual report, expense, revenues. Any questions, concerns?
Yes. I had one on page 24, item 1135. Are there any more outstanding bills that we should be looking for?
I am not sure what has been processed, because that was 9/15, so we are billed through mid-November, so without seeing it, I don't know if that was the bill for October or if that was the bill for September, so. I can't
So
answer
we
that.
still could be,
Yeah, we were under contract for a set amount, and it was divided up over
okay,
those months. So
over a year period of time.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay.
Any other questions?
I might have one.
Right.
Oh, this is accounts payable, okay. I'll wait for the treasurer when you say treasurer.
Oh, I said it.
Oh, did you?
I did, I listed all of
Under
the
your
accounts
mask?
payable, no. I'm wearing a mask, yeah, no, I said accounts payable, payroll, treasury, report.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, on page 44 and 45, the time periods are the same for both pages, and yet there are some figures that are seemingly not the same. For instance, like the beginning balance.
they're not the same.
Well, one says 20 million's 46,
I
46,
see.
and the other's 20 million, 158.
So you're talking about the total.
Right,
Okay.
yes. Yes, I would think we would start with both the same, the total there.
I wish I could see what you're talking about. There we go.
Okay.
Mine's not loading, so.
Emails there.
Yeah, I don't.
The difference is in leave liability.
Are we missing something up in the, no, it couldn't be because the end total is the same.
Yeah, the important thing between these two pages is it's just showing you the comparison between our fund balances and our cash balance. And what I focus on, what you want to see is at the very end that things end up the same. I don't have an immediate answer for you on why that's.
Well, I would assume that the next one you present is going to have the 13 millions plus, because that's both the same on both pages.
Not necessarily. So as it gets reconciled, there could be something that gets reconciled and fixed from a previous month when Thad gets a report, which would change. We're not going to show you this again, but it could technically change this report, which then when we get next month won't necessarily transfer those over. Not saying that's always going to happen, but it's not necessarily always going to be the same one you see here as the start of the next one.
Okay, I thought maybe some of this had to do with us going over to Springbrook and still getting Springbrook and everything getting squared around or something.
No, the important thing is that you can see cash and fund balances are the same. And that's the point of the report is everything's reconciled, and then you can see, cash balances and the fund balances are the page I. But I will look into that and get you an answer.
That, to me, that seemed like quite a big difference, between the previous balance and on either page.
That'll get an answer back to you.
Okay, well, maybe all of us.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay, no, sir, yeah. Because there's another one I had a question of, very similar to this, but it doesn't cover the same dates. It's like 5 days later, so things could have come in then. I know things could have come in then. That's why, I didn't mention that, because I thought, just like what you said, things can come in and be processed and paid and all that.
Well, then like all the other reports aren't reconciled. The treasury report's only reconciled, so you can't, even in the same month that we printed them on the same day, you can't take the treasury report and compare that to the budget to actuals or the other reports, because the treasury reports is only reconciled stuff. All the other reports are just real time.
Okay, well, this indicates to me it's over a month period of time, from the 1st to the 31st. I mean, that's all I'm going by.
Yes, but it's only reconciled stuff. So the other ones aren't everything, not just reconciled stuff.
I know we have bills outstanding and things like that,
Revenues, bills,
Sure.
transfers, interest, yeah.
All right.
You wanna bring up the other one, or you wanna just?
No, I understood the other one.
Yeah.
I just didn't, this one, that's fine.
Alright. We don't need a motion on that, so we will move to new business, equipment purchase.
Yeah, this is, you wanna talk about it?
Yeah, we got
Okay.
some outstanding equipment that we're still trying to procure for the new engine, with the idea that when the engine arrives, we will take some equipment off the reserve, and that we're trying to set all 4 of the engines, our reserve and our front out, to be as similar as we can possibly do, so that if in the event that engine gets pulled up because the rig goes out of service for maintenance, that we're not swapping as much equipment. And also if we have a need to upstaff and staff a 4th engine for any reason, weather related to incident, that we're not putting members on an engine that doesn't have the full complement of tools within reason. We're not going to duplicate extrication equipment. There'll be some stuff that they would not have full capabilities, but ladders, ground monitors, nozzle and hose complement, we want to keep this as close to the same as possible. So I think these are the last 2 big pieces of equipment we're missing as far as cost. I still got some smaller stuff that I need to purchase, but we have a little bit more time to procure that stuff.
And then just update you, we're going back for final inspection October 26th and 7th for the new engine. And then we are keeping the International 40. It will not be outfitted the same as the other 4. It'll be minimal to meet the needs of a mode. And then if we have to put it in service for some reason, there will be swapping over. So we'll have 4 that are outfitted, kind of like frontline, and then 1 with the bare minimum.
So 2 backups.
Correct.
Okay. Alright, any questions, concerns? Have a motion for it?
I'll move we approve the 2 equipment purchase authorizations from Curtis for up to $13,000.
All in favor of that motion? Asbestos testing.
Yeah, so before we can do any demolition on the property, which is including training, we have to have evaluated all the structures for asbestos, lead, and some other things. So this is getting a quote for that testing, not any of the abatement or anything if there's anything found. Have 2 bids that are drastically different in prices by like 20, one's 25% of the other. Everything so far I can find is it seems like the lower one does meet all the requirements, but I still want to do a little more digging. So, but so that we can not get behind the 8 ball, I'd like you to approve the lowest of the 2 bids that meet all the city, state, and county requirements. And then if I can make sure I confirm that lower bid amount can do that, then we'll go with it.
I was looking these items over here, and it looked like the testing, the one seems to have quite a bit less testing to it than the other one does.
Well-
And, I mean, I'm just going by what they said, like samplings, you know, and how many samplings, I added the samplings up. And, I don't know, I think the one with the lower bid has the less samplings. And then there was also something in one of them there that talked about lead-based paint. And I didn't see that in one of them either, you know, unless they call it something different in there.
So there's three.
There's
There's three,
yeah.
yeah, and so one cannot meet, so I don't know which one you're talking about, so
Yeah.
the Seattle asbestos cannot meet the requirements of the state and county permit process, so they're out. So now we're down to the other two, and that's what you're saying is what I'm making sure that they can meet all those requirements, and if they say they can with the testing, I see all the differences, but the important part is if we don't have to pay for extra sampling, then I don't want to pay for it. If we have to, for some reason, if I figure that out, then we would go with the more expensive one that does more testing. But yes, we have to have lead, but those are all the questions I asked them, and in their email, they said, yes, we meet all those things. And again, it still seems odd with the differences you're saying, so I just need to do some more follow-up to make sure that they are meeting the requirements with the way they say they can do it.
I was concerned, like I said, that, I don't know, in this one here, that's the cheapest, all it says is asbestos. And, lead-based paint, I didn't think was asbestos. So to me, that would say that they're missing out something on that, as I look at this anyway.
Correct, and that's what I'm trying to track down. So I asked them in an email, they just said yes, and so now I need to get answers. I've asked them more specific questions, and I haven't got that back. Because we do have to have lead we don't have to have the lead tested for the training part, but we have to have the lead tested for any of the demolition part, to get our demolition permit.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the chief to enter into an agreement with the lowest of the two quotes that meet all related testing and reporting requirements pending further information.
All in favor of that motion? Aye.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
I'd rather have the information before voting on
Perfect.
it.
All right, so motion passed. City MOU.
Yes, just let me get to that page in a second. I don't miss anything. So in the ILA, the city, we basically signed the ILA before we really got down the property purchase path that we knew. And so in the ILA agreement, it says the city has to pay us in 30 days that they pay interest. However, we cannot transfer the property to them within 30 days of closing because we have to do a BLA and other things to get the lot lines right. So our lawyer said we shouldn't uphold the ILA language as it was, so we had their lawyer and our lawyer come up with new language, and basically they're gonna pay us half down within the 30 days, and then they'll pay us the other half when we get the BLA done up to 180 days. And then if we don't have the BLA done for some reason 180 days, then they'll start still paying interest then.
I know that in the memorandum of understanding, it gets rid of that 4% thing.
Only for that 180 days.
Okay.
So the MOU gets rid of the 4%, but the MOU is only good for up to 180 days or until the BLA is done. So as soon as the BLA is done, or 180 days, then it kicks back to the original ILA language. They will have 30 days to pay us the other half, or 4% kicks in.
So does this have to go to the city council then too?
I don't believe so. I think the mayor can just sign it. That's why it's there, but I can't speak for them.
I'll move to authorize the chief to sign the MOU with the city of Snohomish on the payment process for the land.
All in favor of that motion? Aye. Motion passed. Fund change.
And so we had the historic accountant, as you know, and then we also had Jim Torpin working on some stuff for us. Both of them that haven't talked or we haven't mentioned it to, both of them came back with recommendations that we should change our funds. So we have 5 funds right now, but they're all considered managerial funds with the state, meaning you can move money in between them all you want, no restrictions. And so they said by having managerial funds, but having separate funds, just all it does is causes more work for that and auditing and reporting. They both suggested that we move to one fund in F70 and then just keep track of our money ourselves. But then all that gets reported to the state as just one fund. We report to you that we have money set aside for this and that and keep track of it and budget, but to the state, we just have it all in one lump. We talked it over a lot. And we decided instead of going to 1, that we would recommend you going to 2. Basically, F70 would have the lead liability, the cash reserves, the operating, and the training center. And then we'd have a capital fund, which would have the facilities and the equipment moved into it. So we maintain 2 managerial funds instead of 5, but we wouldn't go all the way down to 1. It's really no different for what you see, what I see, what are the line items. Really, the only person that's going to see a difference is that. In the reports he gets from the county and how he reports to the state. Other than that, we will continue to maintain in the budgets, just like you see those different funds, those different monies. It's hard because sometimes we talk about funds with a capital F, and sometimes with a lower F. So we will continue to keep track of the money separately so that we can budget with that, and you can see what money's going in and out of those different segregated dollars. But we will have it all in just the 2 funds. Does that make any sense? And they'll still be managerial funds. Want to add anything to that, Thad? You got a lot more words.
Pretty good job explaining it. It's pretty simple.
Really, we wanted to pass this now, because when we present the new budget to you, although the budget will look the same, we'll start labeling things correctly. So basically, that's what you'll see change. Instead of F75, F76, F78, you'll have F70 training center, F70 lead liability, F75 equipment, F75 facilities. So we want to get it all labeled so that we move through 24 like we're going to. And if you pass these now, then we can have it for the budget you adopt.
When I was thinking about this, we had that one special fund there for leave, excess leave, and so forth like that. And I was wondering what kind of safeguards are going to be in there so that we don't accidentally spend that stuff out. You know, I mean, is there anything special in there outside of just having it listed that way? And saying it's got to stay there or something with it. The way it is now, it's kind of by itself, and, you know. And
it's the same way. So we can't spend anything without your approval. The general fund budget will have all of the stuff that we can spend it on. If we wanted to use that, we'd have to come and get permission from you to use that money. So it's not like we can just spend it. Now, part of the reason we put them all in one fund, they say it actually makes us able to more efficiently use our money because, we haven't written on an actual dollar that this is for that. So that actually gives us buffer so we can weather ups and downs more, but we're not going to spend that money, that balance for anything, but it's still in that fund.
so what would a report each month look like?
Exactly like you're getting now. But
Yeah, but I thought we were getting rid of something. We're moving it into its own,
Yeah.
into another thing, but getting rid of
we're
what it
still
was.
accounting for it.
Right.
So we will still show you those accounted for balances, but it won't say F70, F80 anymore.
It'll be the same except for at the end of
Just
the
have
year.
their name of what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, when it comes to auditing, they're only looking at 2 accounts instead of looking at 6. It's easier for him to go in.
So like,
Well, I'm concerned about even before auditing. so that there isn't something that, maybe there's, if there's a, move the decimal point in the wrong place or something like that, and then, I'm trying to think of how it can be helpful for us, so that we don't get in a position that maybe, oh, how did we screw this up,
No,
I mean, that
yeah.
type of thing, that's really what I'm.
Like I said, we'll still report those balances, and we are still segregating it for that use, right? And by you adopting these new resolutions, we still can't spend it for anything but that. But, like Evan said, he doesn't have to fill out 5 different state reports. He can just fill out one, because as far as the state knows, they just roll it together. So, but we're still gonna let you know, and we're gonna still keep track of it completely separate, just like we're doing now. The only other thing, which I think is on next month, but since we're talking about it, they also both recommended a funding level for the lead liability, which is much less than we have now. So we're going to do a calculation to figure out where our actual liability is and bring that to you.
And then that would be what we recommend we do that account.
Correct. We'll make a recommendation of how to fund that account, what balance to maintain in that account moving forward, and what to do with the difference once we have that for you.
Because we have to keep a certain amount in there,
We
we did before a certain
Yeah.
percentage.
Yeah.
To cover the months we got in there, so.
Yeah, well, that's not the lead liability, that's the cash reserves.
But it's still in there somewhere.
Correct, yeah, they're both in there, but we have to keep track of them separately, and we will.
I did want to make a comment on page 84, line the 6th bullet. We have a fund.
Oh, yep.
Mr. Baby. We have a fund.
I can fix that
Yeah, because we should have a corrected one that we're signing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I will correct it and send it out right now.
I was, and then on page 85 on resolution 560, in the third whereas,
Just a second. I gotta get this correction now.
oh, okay. All right. Well, this may not be a correction, I'd just like some information on that whereas.
What page?
85,
Okay, third whereas,
yes.
yep. What was your?
Well, I some clarification of who it is. I did not think we had anybody like that anymore.
You didn't like one.
No, I thought it had to do with the retirement system, which
Oh,
systems,
gotcha.
So I thought we had that before, I remember that. But I didn't think we had anybody now.
Well, so what this is trying to say is we're not paying for it like that one, but if we, some people can cash out, like Mike did, he can cash out their PTO and put it into Viva for healthcare.
Okay.
So we're not paying their medical bills, and that's the liability that we're saving for.
That makes sense. Okay, I thought that was, the way it reads, it sounds like there is somebody still here that would be getting.
I can reword that too if you want.
Well, I'm just saying that's, because I remember, maybe it's.
Yeah,
you guys-
no, I know what you're saying. It's worded like the health
Like we have
last
some.
one,
Yeah, left one,
I kind of read like that as well.
yeah.
Like, we were that.
I'll just take loss of actually, I'll just take all of that. That's just a type of like.
So we don't need that in here, or do we need that in here, something like that?
I just stopped it at liabilities.
Oh, okay.
Of accrued sick leave, or of accrued leaves. How about that?
That's not.
Yep.
Okay.
I do have a motion on the resolution with those corrections.
I'll move that we adopt resolution 559 as updated, and 560 as updated, and 561.
All right, all in favor of that motion? Motion passed. Policy 201.
This just updates the policy 201 to match the 3 resolutions that you just passed.
I'll make a motion to adopt policy 201 as presented.
All in favor of that motion? Motion passed. All right, draft budgets.
So the first one is the expense budget. Just some highlights. The CBA employees follow the October CPI, which is not out, but it's been running about 4 to 7% the last few 12-month periods, so I expect it to be in that range. CBA employees are capped at 3%, so that's what we used is 3%, assuming it was going to be at or above 3%. All non-CBA employees use August CPI, so the executive chiefs, the part-timers, and the non-representative admin staff. August CPI was 5.4%. So we are recommending the budget you have before you has a 5.4 increase for part-time, 4% for non-exempt admin staff, and 3% for executive chiefs. We've also included a position for the fire marshal and a 6 month of a position for the office to start the succession planning for retirement in mid-25. Early to mid-25. Overtime has been increased by 3% to match the CBA because that's what it vastly accounts for. The overall costs increase, a little updates here. We've changed some things for personnel, went up by 4.48% with the added positions. But the overall decrease of the rest of the operating budget was about 7.93%, which ended up being a total operation budget of 2.3% increase this year over last year. But as we said through the levy presentation, we've increased our transfers to the reserve funds to about 4.65 million, or about 180%. All that is for funding of the stations mostly. So that's the main changes to the expense budget. Lots of numbers out there.
So, yeah, I have questions just because of my own unpreparedness, not because there's a lot of information here, which is great. But can you remind me what the last, what and when the last cost of living increases were for these 4 categories?
Let's see, believe last year for the CBA employees was 2%. You guys remember that? Good. I think it was 2% last year, I'd have to go look. I believe it was 9% for the non-exempt admin and the part-time, and 8% for the executives.
And it feels more recent than last August. That was last August though.
Yep, always at the budget time.
And we were increasing the part-time increasing the part-time wage just for be competitive. Was that at that same time?
I think did we increase it, was it the same time we did competitive?
Yes,
Okay,
pretty sure it was too.
$10?
yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I thought it was the year.
Yeah.
And yes, firefighters.
And those are what we used in the line items that you have in the draft budget. We also decreased the total amount budgeted for part-time because we haven't been able to have enough to spend what we budgeted the years before. Enough part-time.
Well, I apologize for being not as well prepared as I could have been, but I could use a little more information and understanding before I may yes vote.
This is just a draft budget, so you wouldn't have
Okay.
until November.
Okay. So draft budget, this is information, not action.
The only thing we really need to know is the CPIs if you want to change them so that we can have a final budget with what you want by November. Or any
Okay, I
other
understand.
changes.
It's going to the draft budget. Got it.
So the next CPI is coming out like this one. Later this month.
Yeah, but that's why we changed to August, because October doesn't get out until usually the end of November. So in the past, well, not the past, we always just guess
Yeah.
with the CBA employees and hope we budget close to what it is. And that's why we're trying to move to August, so you can actually budget the real number. But
But we're not doing that with the union because the contract is the other one, right?
their contract is October, so we have to use October until we change that. So, but the contract has 2 to 3%. So if it's below 2%, it's 2%. If it's above 3%, it's 3%. Anything in between, it's the number. We're pretty confident it's going to be above 3%. So that number is pretty much set in by contract. And no matter what you guys adopt, if it comes in as 2.9, it would be 2.9.
It was 4 last year.
Is that what you got for last year was 4? Oh, 4.
I read an article recently about some pretty big increases across the board for medical insurance premiums. So is this an estimate or is this
That's it. We
from the carrier? And
Yep.
who is our?
our carrier is, they changed the name and I can never get it right.
IAF held them over.
IFF has Health Trust.
Okay.
So yeah, 8.7 and 0% on dental, which like you said, we get the fire chief's rates and the commissioner's rates is extremely competitive
Mhm.
at 8.7.
Yeah, I saw like 10 to 18, something like that.
Yeah, so that is the actual renewal rate. And most people, we didn't see anybody else get a rate pass on dental, so most people are 2 to 4 on dental.
Any other discussions on the draft budget? We'll need a motion for the expense and revenue. Is there a motion on that? Any more discussion? Questions?
So So what the expense here, that's all it is basically for the salaries.
Yeah, we just,
This,
you don't have to make a motion to accept the CPIs, but if you don't, then we have to guess, and if you change our guess at the November meeting, then we don't have a final budget to be adopted, and then you can do the revenue, but we have to have the revenue into the county before the end of November, so then we would have to have, which is fine, we'd have to have a special meeting either before the November meeting or after the November meeting, so if you guys are comfortable with the CPIs, then we can have the budget adopted with that. If not, we will probably have to figure out to fit in another meeting somewhere before the Thanksgiving holidays.
so what this CPI would be the August one, right?
Which one?
And this,
The only thing we're using August one for is the second line on. So the August one doesn't have anything to do with CBA covered employers.
right, but I mean, there is a CPI for all the rest of the.
Yes, and last year you, as a board, adopted the policy to use August for everybody but the CBA covered employees. So that's why we use the 5.4 number to figure out the 3 other groups that use the August. So we're saying, do the executive chiefs well under CPI, the non-representative a little bit under CPI, and then let the part-timers have the full CPI. And that's just a recommendation you guys can choose to do. Anything you would like. And you don't really need to include the motion wouldn't be giving the CBA employees, it would be giving me the motion to put that in the budget. Because again, they're just by contract, you can't really change that, just like they can.
Alright. What are your thoughts? Alright, motion to adopt CPI increase for wages of CDA covered employees and executive chiefs of 3%, non-represented admin staff of 4%, and part-time employees of 5.4%. All in favor of that motion? Aye.
Any other questions about any of the line items, the reserve capitals, anything? There will undoubtedly be adjustments before November as we keep getting better and better information, so some of the line items might get tweaked here and there. If we can get the state utility tax estimates from the county, we'll put those in. They're not in from the state or to the county, so there'll be some small changes, but unless you guys see anything big, it will just be minor changes here and there to have the best information.
Does this draft here, what you have, include what I sent you about the commissioners?
Yep. For instance, we don't have our insurance quote back, so we just used a 14% increase for liability and vehicle insurance.
Alright.
Any discussion on revenues? Oh, that's all.
Yeah. Any discussion on the revenue location today?
Okay, well, that's all wrapped up into.
Well, I think we do need
Yeah, a little more on revenue.
yeah, another motion for.
I got one bullet point ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, any discussion on the revenue?
So I'll just, we have the information from the county on property values. New construction, like I just said, we don't have the utility tax, state utility tax, which comes in as a property tax. So I've given you projections for the EMS levy as a 0 and a 1% increase, and projections on the general fund as $1.30, $1.40, $1.50. Since we just passed the general levy, we could set it for any amount. It's not capped by the increase. Our other revenue, we used historical averages to figure out the increases for them. Only 13% of our revenue is other revenue, and 90% of that is either GMT or transport. Because most of that other revenue is fairly static, it's only increasing just over 1% total. It's hard to, we don't usually put a lot of increase in GMT and transport because we don't know from year to year, so we use historical averages to kind of predict that. And then we go 80% of that just to make sure that we're not getting ourselves caught. Again, you won't officially adopt the revenue until next month, but if you want something else in the projections, you need to let me know, and the expense budget that you have is all based off a 1% increase for the EMS and $1.50 on the general fund. So that's, if you want other budgets, you will need to give us direction to provide to other budgets. Total revenue of just over $14.5 million. Commissioner Gleason, let you go first. You said you had something.
Nope. All right. You
Well,
have any
I
discussion?
noticed, no, I just have a comment. I noticed that the assessor has reduced everybody's property values by an average of 5.9%. So our typical $500,000 home is now worth 400 and some thousand. It's less. Okay. So I was thinking if we did go with the full $1.50 and then the 1% with the EMS, it wouldn't be quite as hard on our homeowners as if it went up 5.9%. I mean, it would still be something, but it might not be seen as quite as in the bottom book or whatever, you know.
All right. That being said, motion.
Yeah, I'll move that we direct the chief to prepare a budget assuming $1.50 for the general fund and 1% increase for the EMS levy.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion passed. Capital, page 103.
These are the capital revenues. Obviously, the station is the big one in F78. F76, now all these names are changing, but I'm going to use them until you sign the documents. F76 is just normal operating at the training center. F80, no planned expenses or revenue in because, again, we're overfunded by best practices. And then F75, the big ones there are 2 staff vehicles, and those will actually replace a 2007 and 2010 reserve vehicle. So we'll bring new vehicles in and do the rotation and surplus of 2007 and 2010. We also have 3 ambulances budgeted that, and that is also to go to 2 reserve ambulances, just like the engine. And so they will replace 2 ambulances. We'll buy 3 and only get rid of 2, and we'll be getting rid of a 2012, and we'll put some asterisks by that because the chassis is 2012, but the box is older, it was re-chassis, and 2017. And then we'll keep the 2017, another 2017, the 2018, and the 3 new ones. And so really it's allowing us to keep those rotations going and not get behind doing our normal 8-year process. Other than that, we have some PPE in there as we're trying to move towards bulk purchasing, just like we're doing with the 3 ambulances. We're trying to move to, instead of buying 3 and 4 and 5 sets of PPE, we're trying to get into purchasing sets a chunk in every 10 years, ambulances together, engines together, because we can get a better value for our money and we can get more standardization better as we make changes. So that's really the capital budget. Again, it's based off the transfers from the general fund, which it was out of the expense budget.
Any questions on that? All right, strategic.
And this is what's new. Part of Torpin's thing was to get us, help us build a strategic budget, which we did. And so this is allowing you, because up until now, we just deal with the year, right? We just deal with 24. But as we know, we just passed a 6-year levy. We have to be planning 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So this looks out 6 years in most things and a little farther in some other things. It allows you to look at projected revenue, property increases, decreases, what that does to the AV, what that does to the levy rate, EMS levy. Just in this one strategic budget, I have in there doing a levy look in the EMS fund in 2025 as an example, so you can see how the rate's going down, and then in 25 it gets the levy lift and it goes back up. You can see how our expenses go over time, labor, normal operating costs, how the reserve funds are acting. So what does buying free ambulances do if we're putting in X amount into the reserve fund for facilities or for equipment? How much we have to put in each year to maintain a balance. I'm not going through each page in order, so I'm just kind of giving you an overview. And then that first page you see that kind of brings all of those different things together to see the overall general financial projections of the district on one page over the next 6 years, so that you guys can understand what we're doing, what we're saving for, and how that's affecting our budgets, our taxpayers, and our citizens. And so we'll start using this more and more, and hopefully we can have some, not during normal budget time, but during the year we can have some time to where you guys we can put this up on the screen and we can change different factors and see what that does, positive, negatively, how that affects all the different things. So this is not part of the adoption process, right? The first 3 things that we just talked about, you have to adopt. This is just a tool for you to look at. So you don't have to adopt it, we don't have to change it. It's more for your information, and we can use that to create more in-depth discussions as we go as an organization. But all those numbers in the first 3 get put into here. And so, 24 has the numbers that you're going to do. And when we end the year in 23, we'll correct 23's numbers. We'll correct the start of 24. And then next year in 25, we'll have what you budgeted in 25, but we'll correct the 24. So every year that we go along, we'll correct the numbers so we're getting better and better information, and we can continue to look out 6 years. And we do 6 years not because of 6-year levy, but that's about as far as you can look out and really not start to lose a lot of get too much error.
I know we talked about going like having 4 ambulances at one time. Should we be thinking about purchasing 4 then at one time? Or maybe 2 and then a couple of years later 2 others or something? I thought that's one of the plans we were talking about maybe down the line.
And that's why we're buying, because we don't need to replace them all. And so we're going to buy 3. That goes into the front line, and the 2018 and 2017 ambulances won't be getting miles put on them. And so when we that's why we're going to 2 extra reserves, because if we put a 4th one in somewhere, we'll still have 1 reserve. And that's one of the reasons we're doing that. So we feel that 3 is the appropriate balance between there. So we get 3 frontline ones. They're all exactly the same. So for standardization, we save money by buying 3. Our 2 reserves will be the old style, whatever that is. But they're not too old to not use. I don't think it would be the best use of money to buy 4.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for
I like it.
allowing us to hire somebody to do it.
So the ambulance, just go back, they usually last about how long?
So we, in our,
10 years or something?
we have 8 in front line, and then they go to reserve for, it kind of depends, but we have 8 front line is what our target has been. We're buying a little bit early because we have the original plan was just to replace the 2012, and then in 3 years we replaced the 17, and 1 year after that we replaced the 18. Again, through the consultant, their advice was if we can put those together, we can save money and get better operations by buying them in chunks that are standard. And so when we get all 3 new ones, everything can be laid out the same, organized the same, put in the same place as the ambulance, because no matter what you do, you can never buy an ambulance just like the one, even though it's only 5 years old, because they just don't do that anymore. There's new technology, new something, and so we're buying a couple early and one a little late, trying to match those numbers up. And then as we go on, these 3 will time out at the same time. And at 8 years, we'll buy 3 more. And 8 years, we'll buy 3 after that. And then we're on the right schedule of just buying 3. And in 8 years, we might go to 4.
So, what's like the best one of the 3?
So if one breaks, we'll buy 3 more.
I was just looking at the capital replacement projected things in this thing.
Yeah, that's that life cycle we put in there. And you can see I had to put -1 and -2s to bring them down so that we can replace them early. But then it doesn't show you out there, but every 8 years, it's lumping that cost in, and so and we can put a growth in there. And so that way we can be assured that we're saving enough money now to pay for those ambulance in 8 years.
All right, any other discussions or questions? All right, moving on, relocation estimates.
So part of the purchase of the property is by law, we have to pay for various relocation costs. So this is 2 moving costs and 3 rent supplements. The total is $426,778 and 33 cents. But again, this is being split by us and the city. So our portion of that is about $183,514.68. So I don't want to go through each one, but our consultant gave you all the different quotes and bids and how they came up with all these numbers. And so if you have any questions, I will be happy to try to answer them.
I noticed on the, must have been the first you sent out, it said up to this figure here. And my thought was, if it would go over that, we're still splitting whatever it is with the city.
It shouldn't go.
But we should still have some sort of controller there, I would think so. So if it does go up, at least the city knows where it is now. You know, they'll hear about it or whatever. But if something goes up, then we ought to have some sort of controller that we'd have to come back and authorize more to go out or something like that.
Yeah, so it shouldn't go above this. They would have to come into you and appeal this amount and say it's too low because of whatever. And that appeals process that we adopted, the Ken wrote, we'd have to go through that because this is what our consultant hire has done all the stuff to meet the law. And they say up to this, it's almost always going to be that, but there's weird scenarios where, like the rent supplement, if they got a year into it and bought their own place, we would stop paying the rent supplement. That's why it says up to that. But that's highly unlikely. But it should never go over. The only way it can go over is if they come and appeal.
And then they have comparables in your book.
Yeah, they have all the comparables, they have the quotes from the moving company, that's why that won't go over. the only way it goes over, they would come and have to appeal and say, the comparables we used were wrong, and here's why they're wrong, and your calculation should be this, and then you guys would have to accept or deny that.
I will make a motion to approve the relocation costs as presented and recommended by Common Street for the moving of the Stuber business and Joanne Hardy, along with rent supplements for John Pettit, Jeff Pettit, and Valentin Jimenez.
All in favor of that motion? Aye.
No,
All right. Transport waivers.
This is that, so ask him.
Any questions? We've been providing all the information as requested. Everything that we get from the requester is in your packet, just redacted. This is a pretty small one, but.
so many things to get through
Yeah.
before we get there, so. I've seen them how many times. There you go. I will move that we waive the balance owed by 2023-14.
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
That motion passed. Leave conversation. Oh, sorry, conversion. I apologize. Leave conversion.
As it says, for the personal service contracts, we have maximum carryover, so 3 of the executive chiefs are asking for diversion of some of their PTO, as presented in the letters.
I'll move to accept all 3 leave conversion requests as presented.
All in favor of that motion? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Chief's report.
Jason's just typing his up real quick.
I'm trying to correct my spelling.
Oh, I'm not that hard. It's just those resolutions, you know, that.
You guys have any questions on any of the significant alarms, or I just did a snapshot of kind of where we're at for annual calls. We're a little bit ahead of last year as far as call volume. Under fire and special ops, our 1-day rope class is next Monday down at the training site. So we got surfers sitting in their TR rig. We have about 8 of our members currently signed up for that all-day class. Anthony Parra completed his rapid entry swimmer class and has completed all the requirements to join the swim team. So congrats to Anthony. On the EMS report, Neil Bromley put together, was part of planning a hosted EMS conference that we did here at our facility. That was a really big hit, 1-day class. So thanks Neil for hosting that. A lot of good comments. Neil's also been working with other partners in the county on an MCI drill, which we'll be hosting Wednesday. Down at ROV, and when the discussion started about 5 months ago, it went from District 4 and a couple other players, and now has grown to being rumored to possibly the biggest MCI drill we've had in the state. So it's going to be a fairly big event. They're bringing in, I think, 3 helicopters, SCSO. You name it, DEM, a lot of players involved, so we're going to get the opportunity to put a lot of our members through what appears to be a very, very large MCI drill.
Do not try to use Machias between 9 and noon.
Neil even got the road closed.
So Neil, if you haven't seen him today, he's got a lot more gray hair as he's trying to frantically put together all the details and logistics that go along with planning the big event. I know Aaron and Daryl and the training division, a lot of people inside have been helping Neil and will be participating. I'd like to give a shout out to my battalions who about fought each other over which one was going to run the incident commander. Usually it's like last person in the room gets to be IC, but they actually were fighting for that position. So that's exciting to see that we got some battalion chiefs wanting to show their stuff. So.
Can I ask an EMS question?
Yeah, there's EMTs out here.
No, but has Dr. Talked anything about like COVID or anything like that that's going around or?
No,
shots for
not
people or anything like that?
that I have heard. I haven't heard anything at the county level other than what you read on the news. They encourage people, but nothing on the, not that I've heard. I'm not saying they haven't happened.
They haven't, it's the same direction that they ended, I think, last year. They encourage everybody to get their annual shot, mask up if you're feeling sick or other people are sick, and so there is an uptick, but the recommendations haven't changed since maybe even more than a year ago. It's still the same general recommendations.
So as if the MCI training wasn't enough, Aaron's been working for almost a year to bring a 3-day IMS class up to Fire District 4, and that's going to happen the 21st, 22nd, 23rd of this month. So we adopted our IMS policy in April of 2022, and as part of that training package was Calm to Chaos, which every officer that's been promoted and acting officers have went through the online training. This is to complete that training with the actual hands-on, 1 day classroom and 2 days of hands-on, practicing our policy and the stuff that has been taught that they've went through online. So thank you, Aaron, for all your hard work. It's been a year ago it's going to happen, so we're excited to have that training. Chief Rader and I attended a 1-day labor relations conference down in Seattle. Those will always have some useful information to gather. And then we just recently, since I wrote this, so it's not in yours, that's what I was typing, is we had wanted to give congratulations out to Ben Place, who just recently completed his acting driver credential and was able to bump up and act as a driver, and also Joe Melnick, who completed his acting officer credential and was able to bump up and act as a company officer. And I think that concludes my report, so I'll take any questions.
I had somebody that I ran into that went through the animals you put on and said it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So it was probably good. Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil just needs to figure out to maybe spread out his projects.
Yeah. Staff one probably good.
Okay.
Yes. So I typed an awful lot for you. A couple things. Engine 40 was mentioned earlier. It was back from the shop. Everything is good. And matter of fact, it's in service right here tonight. Working. So pump's good, engine's good, and working as it should. Brush 43, I'm getting a little bit more excited about. We have the boxes ordered. It's been a slow process, too slow for me. As soon as the boxes are in, we're going to see a quick turnaround. To get the boxes mounted, get the slide-in unit in, radios, light package, and then the last thing, decal. And hopefully everything is excellent with that, and we'll work on surplusing the current service truck. The L&I program tomorrow is the final and fourth quarter mandatory meeting for 2023. I personally have learned tremendous amount of information on firefighter health and safety through this program, so I appreciate being able to be a part of it and our agency being a part of it. And hopefully we're going to have safer firefighters because of it. That's ultimately the goal. And almost everybody in the region has jumped on this thing, so regional meetings every month with our mutual aid partners and our surrounding fire departments. and now a tri-county health and safety group for firefighters here in Snohomish and Kane County is forming, and hopefully that too is going to make just a safer fire service for everybody and keep our troops safer on the ground. With public outreach, I always write a lot. That's because our crews, our fire explorers, and our chaplain group are always doing a lot. So we wrapped up a couple of things. There are some upcoming things. Saturday the 14th at the Snohomish Soccer Dome, they're doing their first ever health and safety fair. We're going to be participating in that. We just wrapped up the Snohomish Chamber Car Show last Sunday of September. Historic Downtown Snohomish Association's fall event, which includes their zombie walk and their food bank fundraiser, is going to be happening at the end of the month. And we just had two of our chaplains, Jeff and Marty, just finished up a full day of training called ACES for PACES. And this was with a group of chaplains from the region that was hosted by the Providence Hospital mental health providers and chaplain group down there. And it kind of opened up some doors. Our chaplains have been in the hospital before with families, but it puts faces in front of each other and familiarity. And the hospital chaplain said, look, if you've got patients or firefighters or employees or members here that are down in the hospital and you're coming with them, the hospital encourages that, and we'll work together, which I thought was really neat. So they had a full day of training on that, from everything from addiction to mental health, suicide. We just wrapped up Suicide Month, or Suicide Awareness Month with that. So other than that, everything I wrote is what's going on. We just did Saturday morning, again, the Senior Center pancake breakfast with firefighters. Our maintenance man, Gary, is the main chef on the grill, and then the fire explorers and other firefighters come down and volunteer at the Senior Center to work with the seniors, and served, I think, 183 people breakfast. So the numbers are going back up. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I wrote you guys just some information about the historical accountant, Andrea McDowell, or Dowell. We've wrapped everything up. She's done some policy review and made some recommendations to us. We've got the 20 and 21 audit corrections that those are made, and then we've changed our depositing processes because of her work. So we're going to streamline that process, make it more efficient and better, more safe and secure. More changes to come, I'm sure, from her work. So appreciate your support of that. Any questions?
Chief, can I move back real quick before you go?
Do I have an option?
All right, thank you very much. I want to recognize he's here today, but Lieutenant Chief Whitney Mansfield, leading and putting together our Fire Prevention Week scheduled materials and getting our crews out to our schools. That started today, so I forgot to put that in here. Sorry, we did, but thank you. So our crews are, as usual, every October, we go out to the schools, and they started that today for the week. And I met with a new school in town today, so I'm going to meet with BC Mansfield. They're very interested in being part of that program in the future as well. So, thank you. All right, I'm done.
I'm going to lead off with taking into that. So the Tribune's here today, and they reached out and asked. They're going to be shadowing us at Fire Prevention Week at Riverview tomorrow. So they're going to do a story on us with the kids. So that's always great when we get recognized for all the hard work that Whitney and the crews do. Most of my time's been taken up with property issues. We continue to try to hone that down to an end point. We're still technically in mediation. We're going to try to get that resolved before the end of October. Because if we don't, we'll have to pump out the closing again, which will then move everything back. So hopefully to finalize those issues before the end of October and wrap that up, and then trying to get all the groundwork for everything to happen after closing set and ready to go too. So kind of working on getting it closed and everything that we have to do after it's closed. Budget took up quite a bit of time trying to get all that worked out, and so that's been the main focus last month. I told you the new engine is coming. The last
You have an
thing
ETA for that?
was that,
You have an ETA for that?
final inspections are 26 and 27, so I don't know after that how long it'll take them to get it delivered to us. I'm thinking hopefully before Thanksgiving, but right around that time.
Oh,
Kind of depends on how many things we find for them to fix at final inspection.
yeah.
Like if the punch list is small, probably mid-November. If the punch list is big, December.
Depending.
And I think the biggest thing in my chief's report is that we've been looking as a county. I was on one of the committees at a nurse navigator line, trying to really increase that to something that would really be meaningful, because most people here don't know, but the county's technically had a nurse navigator line for like 5 years, and it usually grabs about 5 calls a year. So not a meaningful difference. So how do we find something that will actually make a dent in the number of 911 calls? We went through an RFP process. The one we have now, which is Evergreen, said we don't even want to bid on what you want. What we're doing is what we do. We had 2 they were actually RFQs, so we had 2 come back. One was basically just kind of like the Evergreen model we're doing now on steroids a little bit. And then another one is GMR, which is AMR's parent company. It got started in DC during COVID when they had a real hard time. It's much more robust, and it really tries to divert from 911. So we decided to go with that, and part of that is Joe Hughes from Snohomish County got the first year covered by the North Sound ACH. So it's no cost to us. So we get a year of trying this nurse navigator out with absolutely no cost, and we can tweak it before, after. The cost of it is basically on how many calls we send there. So if we like what we're doing, we can increase the calls, which increases the cost. If we say, hey, that wasn't quite worth the value, we can decrease the calls, decrease the cost. But the idea is kind of like the nurse line that we use now is basically if the nurse can answer your question, then they kick you out of 911. This has a lot more pathways. So they can send them to Teledoc. They have contracts with Lyft, Uber. They can arrange a Lyft or Uber to take them to an urgent care. They can do Teledoc, so not virtual doctor visit or a Teledoc if they don't have the technology to Lyft. They can do self-care, so about half their calls get taken. So we send them about, if we do the models that they have, we send them about 5% of our calls. About half of those get taken care of. So 2.5% of the calls get taken care of. The other half get kicked back into 911 as a BLS or ALS call. So we're going to try that for a year at no cost to us and see if it makes an impact on the system. The hope is if we could take 2.5% of calls out, not only are we less busy, we send less people that don't need to be at the ER. Wall times hopefully go down because they're less busy, and we kind of get a snowball. But we'll see. So that's to come, starting around the first of the year. The goal was January 1st, but I don't know that we're going to be able to get everything done in time. We'll see.
So that diversion meter, when they call, they say, is this emergent or non-emergent? If they say it's non-emergent, then they go down that path?
More detail. So they're going to go down the ProQA, just like they do now, and our ESC, right? EMC? I get
CSS.
Yeah, one of the subcommittees of the subcommittee of the subcommittee is dispatch is going to go through basically like some of the MSOs and the MPD, mostly the MPD, is going to go through and say this determinant code could go to nurse navigator this. So when they're doing their pro QA, it's going to get to the determinant codes that we decide on, and that's what's going to get kicked. So the Dr. K wants to start a little conservative, meaning not a lot of determinant codes at first, see how it works, and then we might keep feeding more into that. So they're going to go through and determine very specific determinant codes that can go there. Obviously, GMR, most of their places use ProQA. So they have a lot of data on which their determinant codes work and don't. So they're going to obviously give that committee that, and then the committee is going to use some of that to decide which ones get kicked into this. And then we can always change it, right? If we're going down and for whatever reason, determinant code X we find doesn't ever get taken out, Snohomish County is different for some reason than the GMR. We can pull that out and say, well, if only 3% of this determinant code is ever actually getting not kicked back to 911, let's just not even send it. It's just more of a hassle to go through, come back, and go through. Just like we can go, well, let's add that one, let's add that one. So we can keep changing that all we want through this process. And so we have a subcommittee that's looking at those codes and we'll continue to evaluate that. And it's different in different areas. So, for instance, Darrington doesn't have an urgent care, nor do they have a lift probably. So people at Darrington Index probably aren't going to see as much getting taken out of the system because they don't have as many options to take it out of the system. Luckily, we're pretty close to all the services, so we're much more likely to get more advantage of everything.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that. All right, do you have anything else?
Not unless you have questions.
All right. Commissioner comments?
Yes. I think next month we probably need to have our meeting, because we have to review the chief, on a yearly basis. And maybe next month we should maybe have an executive session to kind of lay out our groundwork, whatever we're gonna do.
Yeah, I like that.
For next
Yeah,
month.
yeah. Kind of come with the evaluation.
Yeah, so we don't get
Yeah.
way down the line. Anyway, and then I also, in the comments from people from, who have experienced our services and stuff like that, I noticed in there that there was a donation that was sent in. And I was wondering what policy that falls under. Which one of our policies does that fall under?
None, because we actually asked the people to send the donation to the Silver Dollar Club, which is a 501c3.
Okay.
So that we don't have to, because we found that out in the state auditor a couple of years ago, and that's when we made the change. There's not a good legal mechanism for it. We used to have remember, I don't know if you remember, we used to have a Fund 72, another fund that we closed a while back, as a donation fund. That's not legal to have according to the auditor. And so we decided when people offer to give us a donation, we ask them to donate it to the Silver Dollar Club, who does partners with the chaplains and the explorers and all kinds of things to make sure the money goes to the same purpose, and they can designate it if the donor wants, or they can leave it undesignated, and then the Silver Dollar Club uses that to do things for the fire service community, our fire service community at large. So that's how we've thought it was best.
Okay. Do we ever get a report from them? The Silver Dollar Club, like X amount went to the chaplains, or X amount went to this?
If you're in the club, you probably would.
What?
If you're in the club.
Yeah, we could ask them. It's so new, I don't know that anything's actually happened.
Okay.
This is one of the first
Okay,
things.
yeah, I think that would be probably important too, since we're not taking it in, but people are assuming it's coming to us, and as they're working with it.
And
We have a good working understanding of how, if anybody ever asks us about it, we could say, well, the chaplain's got X amount of books to take along with them, something like that,
And they don't assume it's going to us, because we're very clear with them that there's this other organization that's good to donate to, and then we give them a letter that clearly explains. So we're very clear it's not coming to us, but if they want to benefit the fire service community, that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
But we can still ask them. I just want to be clear that we're not letting them have any assumption that it's coming to us.
Right, but if we're talking about some of these other folks like the chaplains who are part of the group here, that might be something, well, what did the chaplains do with this, I mean, that's where I'm at. I would hope we always have too much information and not enough information for people.
I think it's outside of what we would want to know, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be like, us wanting to know what the locals do with their, because if someone donated to the locals, or we wouldn't ask them, hey, can you show us where you're spending that money?
Well,
We like he's kind of explained, we kind of want to isolate ourselves from that, because.
well, right, I understand that, but, well.
I can ask the Silver Dollar Club if they'd like every so often to come and present to us what they've done in the last year or two. I mean,
Yeah.
I think all of us here are members of the Silver Dollar Club, so.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'd like to come get a report.
Oh, yeah.
We don't put any effort into it.
That's not true.
I have a quick question. Does the district have a dollar amount for a nominal gift these days? Has it adjusted with inflation, or is it still around $50? I don't know.
Yes,
$50?
yes.
Okay. It's not 100? 75?
Oh, yeah, I asked, Brian brings this up a lot,
Yeah.
like it's still, for whatever reason, $50 because there is none, and people all agreed to that, so that's just stayed.
I think we're behind a few cost of living increases.
Yeah. I think it was $50 when I got hired, the very,
It's based off the cola and
It's,
local.
yeah.
Still 50.
5 gallons of gas.
Okay. So, $50. Is it in a policy somewhere, or is it just kind of?
No, it's in our ethics, but again, he didn't feel, I can't remember the wording, he didn't put a dollar amount. He said it a different way, I'd have to get out and read it, but I had a discussion with him. Because it's not as, I don't know what he, like, when I first started, it's not as strict, he doesn't believe it's as strict as you can't take cookies, or if they offer you to buy you a cup, like it's more, it was something, I don't know the wording, it was something like it had to be meaningfully impacted, I don't remember, but he wrote it better than I have been taught, and I liked his version.
Okay.
And I can get that for you if you would like.
Yeah.
But you guys fall under a different one.
Yeah. City.
No, the commissioners, you fall under
Oh, okay.
the state political one, which is, you fall under ours too, but you also fall under that, I guess I should say. Just in case you're.
Thank you.
All right, any other commissioner comments?
Well, we do have a conference coming up later this month,
Okay.
so for a year, it'll be well enough to attend.
Oh, yeah. I'm feeling pretty ill. No, just kidding, I'll be there. At least for the days, if not two.
Yeah.
All right, well, we will adjourn the meeting at 20:24.
I've heard of it, so.